bubbl.us. Alright? bubbl.us. It's the mind. You registered with them, so you've got an account. No, because what I want you to do is to save what you've done. We're going to try and share it as well. We'll have a little play for that. Here yesterday for my session. A lot of people. Right, that's a disappointment to me. Only because it means that I've got to make sure that today's session doesn't repeat anything I did yesterday. I'm very pleased to see people come back. So has everybody else got onto that website, bubbl.us? Yeah? We're not going to use it straight away. We'll have a go with it a bit later. But if you can get onto the website and register on it, one person on each table, what we'll do a bit later on when we're doing a little bit of brainstorming in our groups, I'll get you to make up your mind map, of what it is you're discussing and the ideas that you've got. And then if we can be terribly clever, we might be able to share them so we can see, we can say this table here and we'll see what their mind map came out like. Alright. We're not going to do it straight away. That'll be after about 20 minutes or something. So if you can get yourself ready to do that. I don't know how well it'll work. I've not done it before with a group like this, so has anybody managed to register in any of the groups yet? And get an account? Have you registered? You've got an account? Right, and it's got to start here. Right. Good, good. I think I'll get some. Do you want to just go off to one side? Just. Or sit down just here and see if you can get the voice on while I get started. Say that again. It'll be, yeah. It's all right. I was thinking of my answer, not wondering about your question. We're going to brainstorm really about sustaining education this time, because yesterday we talked more about disrupting, but actually the way in which we sustain it, but we'll come to it in a minute. So, yesterday's session was looking at the changing landscape of education. For those that weren't here yesterday, really the two sessions complement each other, and the emphasis yesterday was on the ways in which starting to use the technology is starting to change the whole way education is perceived. All right? Do we need schools? Do we need classrooms? Sort of say maybe education will be very, very different in the future because of the technology. Today, we're talking about the role of education technology in the curriculum. So if it's in the curriculum, we're really talking about the way in which we now teach and have taught for years, and the ways in which the technology is helping us to do that a bit better, rather than changing the way that we do things, okay? And whenever new technologies come in, particularly very revolutionary ones like the sort of technological revolution we're going through at the moment, you have this dichotomy, all right, this dialectic really between the fact that the technology is helping you carry on doing what you've always done a bit better, yet in other ways is disrupting that. So a way of looking at it with the technology, in some ways, if you look at very authoritarian states, they can use this technology. I mean, you take Britain. Britain is not terribly authoritarian, but it has certainly got authoritarian aspects. Britain has more cameras up on the streets watching what people are doing than any other country in the world. And that's the technology, and that technology is then all channeled into computers, so the police could be watching you, anybody could be watching what you're doing. And in one way, that's quite good. And you feel safer on the streets, you know, you think somebody's looking after me. But in another way, of course, it's quite threatening. If an authoritarian government comes in that really wants to start controlling the population, they've got mechanisms to do it. But the other side, so in that way, the technology is reinforcing what is already happening. But in another way, this technology allows us to communicate all over the world very, very quickly. So we've recently had those WikiLeaks papers released. You all know about that, don't you? The WikiLeaks release, which was basically giving all the information about what was happening in the Iraq War, that the Americans and the British, really, particularly the Americans, because it was their papers, so the British are not very happy about it, didn't want released. So that was acting in a way against the state. It was saying, you know, the state can't keep things secret from us and control us. This technology can actually allow ordinary citizens to find out what the state's doing. So you've got this sustaining and disrupting aspects to the technology there. We're going to look at that with regard to education, and we're going to focus on ways in which the technology is used in the classroom to support what we do. So, I'll just jump to this one. Right, have a look at that. I wonder if anybody would like to...
The group of ciphers that we teach from early levels to searches levels, different sets of commonly used words.
They are a particular group of words. A particular group. Can anybody... Are there any English teachers here? Yes. Right. That gives you a little bit of a clue. Do you teach poetry? We'll come back in a minute. How about that one? Same group of words.
This is poem, actually. Daffodils. Daffodils poem.
Which poem's that? That's what it is. So if we go back, this is William Wordsworth's poem, Daffodils. I wandered lonely as a cloud. Only I've arranged the words alphabetically. I thought, I'm a maths teacher, I can't be bothered with it. I like things nice and neat. So there's all the words, same words, and they're arranged alphabetically. Now, the point of showing you that is, it was an English teacher that showed me this. I mean, I was somebody who at school, I did maths and sciences and so on, dominantly. I didn't always like English. So if you came into an English classroom and the teacher wanted to teach you about William Wordsworth and take this poem, the teacher would say, this wonderful poem, I want you to look at, I'm going to read you this poem, you look at this poem and so on. And I used to think, I'm wandering around looking at daffodils. Didn't think much to it. What this English teacher said that he does this, he takes a poem. Now, William Wordsworth Daffodils poem is freely available on the internet. You search for it on the internet, you'll find it very, very easily. The whole poem's there. It's in no way copyrighted, so you can freely download it. You can use word processing software. You can use Word, for instance. And Word will order the words for you alphabetically. This is the disruptive aspect of the technology that's taking place here. I once was doing a class like this, and I hung my jacket up at the back of the room, and I'd said to everybody, no, and I was in the middle of doing it, and suddenly this phone went off, and I thought, God, this phone is like, and then I suddenly realised that was my ringtone, my jacket at the back of the room, and so I had to then sort of go to the back of the room and switch it off. So what he does is he takes a poem, And I said, you can, with the technology now, you can very easily do this. You haven't got to go through a lot of effort. You download the poems, you don't even have to type it into your computer. You put it into Word, and it's very easy in Word then to tell it to order the words in alphabetical order instead of the way that William Wordsworth had. And you put that up. And then what you say to the class, what he does, he says to the class, now here's a group of words. I want you to produce a short piece of writing, little story, little word poem, whatever you want to do, using those words, and only those words. And if there's, you can use the word A 7 times if you want, but once you've run out of the A's on there, then it's finished. So you can use only those words there, but if it occurs more than once, you can use the word more than once. And so that's the task that he would set the class, and then they would sit and write a little piece of writing. The kids usually like doing something like that. It's quite a little intriguing thing to try and outdo each other with a little clever piece of writing. And they weren't asked necessarily to produce a poem. It could just be a few sentences of some sort. And then he would look at what the different pupils had produced. And of course, and if anybody else got mobile phones, you turn them to silent. I mean, I haven't switched mine off, but it is on silent, so it'll vibrate only. And what you often find is, because they've been forced to use the very words that William Wordsworth used, they do start writing things a little bit similar to the way he'd written, obviously. And in particular then, when you show them the poem later, quite a lot later, they suddenly, because they've been through the process of trying to think, how can I produce some writing out of these words, they then are much more engaged with looking at the poem. Now this is no great, wonderful use of technology, but it just demonstrates how the technology lets us maybe be a little bit more effective than we had been before. And this is using a website called Wordle, which, are any of you head teachers that are on that group? Did you look at it? Yeah. So there's a little social networking group that I've got with head teachers in Beaconhouse, and I asked them just to have a look at Wordle, because it's quite an easy resource. And all you do with Wordle is it says, choose a set of words, so you might choose a piece of writing, you throw it in, Wordle strips out actually all the little words like and the very commonly used English words, and then it counts up the other words, and the bigger the word is, the more times it's been used in the piece of writing that you've got. So you can look at a piece of writing and you can get an idea about what the writing is about. It gives you an idea of that. And it's quite a useful thing. It's quite a nice thing if you're doing a presentation or something. You take the words from the presentation, throw it into this website, Wordle, which is free, and it will immediately give you a sort of word picture like that, and you can use it then to say to people, this is the sort of area I'm covering. So for instance, here's the William Wordsworth, here's our poem with the